What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Chris, man. We are here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. Got a special guest that's going to be coming on with me. Her name is Marissa Parra. She is a reporter that's based out of Chicago. She is someone who has been in the industry uh, for a few years now, and we're gonna get to know her why in journalism. We'll get to know her why and why she chose the school that she went to. We're gonna get to know her as far as asking fun questions and just having a great conversation and talk. I'm excited to always link up with different reporters, and the reason being is because I'm a sports reporter myself. So to be able to link up with a different reporter, learn about their story is always a tremendous thing, and I'm excited that I have Marissa on here to share a conversation with. So she will be on here shortly with us. All right, and without any further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Miss Marissa. All right. Hey Marissa, how we doing?
Hi, how are you?
Got you. Okay, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, it's been a little bit of a crazy day, but that's just another day in the life.
Right? Absolutely. I can feel that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, lost you. There you go. Got you back. Okay. All right. We good.
I
We good.
I've got
No.
one chart right here, and then this one is at like 10%. So it's a whole mess.
Oh my goodness. I understand. Okay. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for coming on to my podcast. I really do appreciate it. Work hard, play hard. And I also wanted to ask you before we got started, how are you and your family doing during these pandemic times?
Oh, doing great. Doing great. I can't complain. I think all things considered, you have your health, you are a rich person. You know what I mean? So I'm feeling grateful for that.
Yeah, I can feel that too. I definitely understand that. My family's kind of scattered around the U.S. I'm here in Minnesota in the Midwest, but I have family in the South and the Northeast as well. So yeah, everybody knock on wood, glass, or whatever you can knock on is doing pretty good. So yeah, absolutely.
That's so important. That's really truly there's a few core things that matter, and that is among the very top of the list.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree with that. I want to get started by asking you about your why. Uh, your why into journalism, and did you have any aspirations and inspirations growing up?
Absolutely. I think I there's several whys for me, but I think I'm inspired by the people who have trailblazed ahead of me, right? And so, like so many other journalists, I was enamored by the people that I grew up watching. Christiana Monpour is probably top of the list for me in terms of people that are still good stewards and representatives of what I really would love to do. And I think at the core of what we do, it's informing people so that they can make informed decisions outside of watching the news. Voting is a big one, right? You want
Yes.
people to be informed before they make such a big decision. And then outside of just informing people on daily events, current events, what's happening, what's going on, there's also this really noble idea of helping people connect with one another, right? So sometimes it may not be a breaking news story, but those human interest stories are just as important. And I've really come around to that since I've moved to Chicago, honestly, probably more now than ever, especially since the pandemic began, understanding that so much of what we do is also just, it should be highlighting the good in humanity as well, but
Right.
can with one another, helping them understand how they can be better neighbors to each other. And sometimes it's really just, it may not be breaking news, but it serves an important purpose just as much when you're telling people about how other people live and operate, and maybe helping them be more empathetic to someone that lives a completely different life and may look very different from them. And I think ultimately in the long run that it all serves the same type of importance.
I like that. I do. And you're absolutely right. Human interest stories are something that we love, something that should get told more. That's why I'm in sports. I believe you're in news, even though you're in different genres.
Yeah.
Stories could be told. Stories, human interest stories could be told in those ways as well. I definitely had the chance to see a couple of YouTube clips of you prior to me talking to you, doing a little bit of research. I like the Ghost Town one that you did at the O'Hare Airport. That was at a time where people was not traveling a whole lot, and you can get tickets for stupid cheap. I also saw the Loop protest ones that you did, and man, I remember because I'm originally from Chicago. So my family, I had to call back there. I still have grandmas, cousins, and uncles back there. So I had to call back there and see if everything was okay. I have my mom and dad were both born and raised there. My dad South Side, my mom West Side. And when you were out there talking about the different protests that was going on and looting that was going on and people, breaking in stuff, stealing stuff, that's dangerous to be reporting that stuff. But you definitely kept people informed on the news, and that was pretty cool that you did that. I got a chance to see that as well. So I learned that obviously you love what you do. You're very professional at it. You're very good at it. There's not a camera out there that doesn't love your face, and this is the industry for you. So I definitely saw those two because I wanted to kind of get an idea of who I was talking to, but also what kind of stories that you do. And I know those two in particular stood out to me for sure.
Well, I think that those are actually pretty good examples of yet another service that is so important in what we do that I didn't really mention, but is really encapsulated in it, enveloped within this broader idea of what kind of purpose news and reporters hopefully serve in their communities. And sometimes it's really just giving a glimpse of something that someone can't see at home, right?
Right.
Giving that access, but from a place where they can be safe while they're doing it. I mean, there's a lot of discussions on how we can stay safe also and not make fools of ourselves, right? There's a lot of
Right.
discussions about whether or not reporters should be outside in a hurricane, during a hurricane, and if they are, maybe ways of keeping them and the crews safe as well. But the point is that, for instance, I did a similar thing. I did a Facebook Live the first day that the lockdown really went into effect. The first 10 minutes, I did a Facebook Live. And the streets were completely empty. And it was just like the ghost town at O'Hare. That was during a snowstorm, I believe, if memory serves. Um, Complete ghost town on the streets of downtown Chicago. I mean, it was eerie. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. And that was at the start of the pandemic where there was so much fear and uncertainty. I mean, rampantly so, because we'd never lived through anything like this. Um, and I think with the protests, there's a similar phenomenon where people are at home wondering what's going on. They're seeing all kinds of things on Twitter. And I think that there's a lot of distrust when you're seeing certain things on Twitter, like, well, who do you believe? And of course, my hope is that I can provide an objective pair of eyes on the ground in those
Yes.
moments. Like,
Yes.
here's what I'm seeing. And of course, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like what I'm saying, who's going to accuse me of being biased, but that there's nothing I can do about people like that,
Right.
like just stick to
Right.
the.
No, you're absolutely right. Listen, we report the news. Credibility is everything to us, right? So credibility is everything to reporters, journalists out there. Yeah, you're always gonna have some kind of trolls. There's no question about it. People that don't like what you're saying, or people that try to misconstrue what you're saying. There's nothing to misconstrue though. Anything about those protests. But that was real. Those things were real when people driving through the streets and people are looting and breaking into stores and stealing things. I remember me being in Atlanta, at the time and doing before I broke into this industry uh, late last year. Um, I remember being in Atlanta and hearing about Chicago, and I was like, geez, people are like stealing all kinds of stuff, and they were doing it in Atlanta too. It was just the protest was just so wild, and for you to be out there accurately reporting, talking about your station being a couple blocks down the street, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool to actually know someone that was out there and talk to someone face to face like I am doing right now. So yeah, you do a great job, no question about it. I want to ask you about University of Maryland. That's where you went to get your undergrad, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah.
I want to know, because well, obviously you're a I think it's called Terrapin. Terrapin,
Oh,
yeah.
Terp for short. We're Terrapins or Terps.
Okay, Terps is better for me. Okay, so Terps alum. I want to know, because any other school persuaded you from going to University of Maryland?
No, well, what's really funny is that originally the plan wasn't to go to Maryland. My father went to University of Maryland, so like a bratty teenager, I said, well, that's the one school I'm not going to. And then sure enough, it's careful what you say, right? Never say never,
Mhm.
ever, because life ended up turning out that University of Maryland was the best choice and the best pick for me in particular for several reasons. I had my grandparents were getting older, and at the end of the day, I did find myself wanting to be within arm's reach of them, and that was really great because I was, and they lived outside of Baltimore, Maryland, essentially.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was driving to that. It was a state school, so it was a lot more affordable.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Fantastic journalism program, and I'm happy to go more in depth if anyone's curious. But like the access you have to DC, for me personally, that was life changing because you have access to so many internships. I was working at a local DC station as an editor overnights while I was taking classes. That was great.
I love that. I do. I've been to Baltimore once. My little brother had like he had a co-op that he was doing in Baltimore, and I drove by University of Maryland. And I was like, man, that's school popping. That's school popping over there. Like, you got a lot of stuff going on. Okay, so yeah, I've been to Baltimore too, Bmore, and got a chance to go to the Nationals game while I was out there as well. So yeah, pretty cool.
Nice.
I like that. Marissa, I want to ask you some favorite things. So I'm going to ask you some favorite questions. Did you give me the 411 off the rip from these questions? Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, here we go. Favorite music genre?
Rock and roll.
Really? Okay, I like that. I like that. So, what is a band or a performer that comes on either, Spotify, Pandora, and you start singing to the top of your lungs, and people looking over at you like in the car when you're driving, people looking at you like, what the hell is she doing?
There's a lot of songs like that, but definitely The Doors.
Wow. Okay. All right. You got
I
an
would
old
say
soul. I like that.
I know. Well, I know it's kind of a basic answer. And there's a lot of songs that like are a little bit more modern that I like too. But I would say in terms of like every song, I know it inside and out, The
Hmm.
Doors, hands down.
The Doors. I like that. Okay. Cool. Favorite movie genre?
Oh gosh, that's really tough. Oh God, I do love movies. What is my favorite movie genre?
Hmm.
Oh, putting me on the spot. Honestly, sci-fi.
Okay. So you like an Avatar, Star Trek, that kind of movies?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Star Wars was a big one. We can have a whole different discussion on the newest movies though. Without
Okay.
getting, well, I would say super nerdy. Between you and me, Lord of the Rings. Really
Oh,
good.
I like that. 'Cause
Okay.
I'm a Lord of the Rings person too. So hey, let's be nerds together. That's what's up. I like that.
Right? Not
Yeah.
everything, but I'm not going to be ashamed. We'll be proud Lord of the Rings fans.
Absolutely. Now, I will say this fun fact before I get to the next favorite question. Have not seen one Star Wars movie ever in life. Yeah.
It serves a different purpose than Lord of the Rings. How do I put this without pissing off Star Wars fans? I love it because it's kitschy. And once you can like buy into the kitsch, it's cheesy. It's fun. It's a fun experience. I love
Right.
going
Right.
on rides. It's a little different. Lord of the Rings is a little bit more serious, you know?
It is. It is. Oh, I like
Yeah.
that. I like how you changed your tone right there too. That's pretty cool.
Well,
That's pretty dope. Next favorite question I have: favorite meal you like to cook?
I do love to cook. My
We're gonna be
favorite
great
meal,
friends then. Man, you like to cook. We're gonna be great.
I think my proudest one was my proudest achievement was probably ratatouille because I remember my first time ever learning to cook ever. I mean, you have no idea. Like I had no help in this department at all. I grew up with a single father who barely all he did was he would boil chicken and we would have oatmeal and boiled chicken and gosh, I think I taught him to make an omelet. I had to like
Oh wow.
learn from TV how to make an omelet. And then I went to college and I started experimenting. I was like, oh my God, you guys, I made an omelet. This is amazing. And so then I started actually getting it, like diving into Netflix cooking shows, like Chef's Table made me feel like I was going to be a chef. I was like, yeah, I've got this. This is be like my side hustle. And I
Mm,
started watching shows on Netflix like Ugly Delicious and I got super into it.
right.
And so I tried to make macarons and it was horrible. They even now I still try to make them every now and then. It's very sad. But ratatouille, the first time I made it, it was inedible. I had to throw it away. And then I made it again. I attempted it last year. And I'm not gonna lie, I could send you a photo. I'm pretty proud of myself. I got a
Do
mandolin.
please do.
I Yeah, I'll send you a photo. It was pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. So it was just nice to see it come full circle, even presentation.
And you are dead on about us men making meals. I'm very, very simplistic when it comes to cooking. So, spaghetti, chicken breast, broccoli, macaroni and cheese. I ain't talking homemade, I'm talking craft. Stuff like that. Very simple meals I make. I'm a breakfast person though, for real, to be honest with you. Like I could whip up some homemade French toast. I love pancakes, waffles, stuff like that. So I'm a very breakfasty kind of person. Like I'm the type of person to eat breakfast at dinner. So yes, if that's weird, then oh well. But yes, that's
It
me.
is not weird. I think there's a strong following behind breakfast all day, every day.
Mm,
Breakfast for dinner, that's like a cult favorite. Who doesn't like
absolutely.
breakfast? But
Uh,
my theory, whether or not you have breakfast during normal breakfast eating hours, which I do not because I wake up at 2 in the morning now for work.
wow.
So I love to have breakfast for what would be considered my lunch or dinner, which is in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's the best
Mm,
meal of the day.
I love it. I love it. I love you. I just love you, Marissa. I do. I'm loving it so far. I'm loving it so far. Okay, two more favorites. Favorite place you ever traveled to?
My favorite place I've ever traveled to. That's so tough because I love every place I've ever traveled to. And Anthony Bourdain had this really great quote that hit home, but just how traveling is a joyous and painful experience all at the same time because it just changes you so deeply. So this is so tough. I feel like I'm picking a favorite child, but
Mm,
I would have to say Tanzania because that was
wow.
just life and probably one of the best moments of my life because that's something I've been dreaming of since I was, gosh, 4 years old, I think, 4 or 5.
Okay, you said Tanzania?
Tanzania, where Kilimanjaro is.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay, I like that. I like that. Okay. Favorite alcoholic drink?
Hmm, anything with mezcal in it. Probably Paloma.
Hmm,
For right now, it changes every 6 months.
I feel it. I just had my first
Right?
Paloma at the start of the year, and I was like, "Ooh, this is pretty good." I'm normally a
Yeah,
Hennessy guy. I'm normally Hennessy and Crown Royal, and I do like vodka at times, but I'm mainly that Hennessy person. But hey,
keeping it simple.
you said what?
Keeping it simple.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yes, without question. My hen and coke is all I need. So yeah, okay, hold on, I like that. I want to ask you about internships. Obviously, at the University of Maryland, you probably did a couple, and maybe you did a couple when you graduated. But what kind of internships did you do? And from those internships, what did you learn that you still apply to your job today?
Sure. I think the one that probably changed the trajectory of how my professional career went the most was my internship at Channel 9 in DC. Shout out to WSA 9. That was the place that kind of gave me my first start in literally anything. So many doors opened after that one moment, because I think a lot of people can relate to the idea that it just takes one person to take a chance on you. And then once that one person does, you get a chance to prove yourself in some way, shape, or form. And then at that point, it's up to you to show them what you can do with that chance, right?
Right.
And that was the place that took a chance on me with that internship. I remember someone had said to me, like, well, it's super competitive here. And I was like, well, I'm going to make it, And I basically like, okay, was that a challenge? Because I'm going to get
Right.
this intern. And I was really happy, grateful, fortunate that I did. That led to my first job, which, listen, I will be the first to say that, there's a lot of challenges of breaking into the TV news business. I didn't grow up with money. And this is definitely, oh my God, that's why I'm part of NAHJ, and we're doing scholarship fundraisers every single year, because man, it can be tough with these unpaid internships and then
Yes.
relocation fees. You you're barely making any money in your first job, sometimes even your second job. So having that time after college to save up by working as an editor. I was saving up during college and then a little after college, because I couldn't afford to move otherwise. I didn't have any financial help from my parents. And I was like massively in debt from school. I mean, you graduate. And for those of us who, like, if you don't get all scholarships and your entire, college ride taken care of, you
Right.
graduate in debt. And so that's something that I think more people should talk about, and should be open about, because it's definitely something that I think shows in our industry. It's definitely an industry that's easier if you're privileged and born with, some financial help, which I have seen play out. So for me, that internship was just kind of the start of it all. And I would say what it taught me, beyond the help that it gave me in the ways that I just mentioned, what really helped was that in college, right, you are taking classes and
Yes.
you can learn as much as you want to from a book, but there's just nothing that beats seeing it in person, truly. A book can only help you so much. And
Yeah.
there's just got to learn the street smarts of it. And you also have to learn, you have ideas of how things are going to go, and then you remember that it's an industry, right? So it's not going to go exactly as perhaps you imagined it when you were wide-eyed and bushy-tailed as a
Mm.
college student. And that's not a bad thing. It's just good to get a more realistic sense.
Oh man, we must be kindred spirits, Marissa, because I'm telling you, everything that you just said kind of aligns with what my life is. Really, to be honest with you. Talking about obviously the financial side, yeah. Breaking into this industry, I did lottery before I broke into this industry, and it's less money. The money is just not there in your first or second job, and this is my first job here, so you really got to be smart about budgeting, what to do, what you can't do. And then you also have to look at it as there is unpaid internships out there, which is absolutely ridiculous in my mind. But for people to
Yeah.
try to give as much time, and then you say, well, you got to break bread once you get out of doing an unpaid internship and be able to, save money. It's hard to save money when you dedicate hours that you're not getting paid for. It's
Mm-hmm.
just disheartening. You know what I mean? So and
Oh,
my mom and my mom and dad, I had a mother that was single. My mom and dad divorced when I was 3, so I was very young when they divorced. Along it, same here, right? So and I live with my mom, so she didn't always have it. So it was just one of those things where it's like you said with the financial aid, yeah, you get Pell Grants, but unless you're taking out some of those subsidized and unsubsidized loans, you probably can afford to go to college because even though you're applying for scholarships, so is thousands and thousands of other students that you're
right.
hoping and praying that you get a scholarship. So I totally understand. But I'm glad that what you learned from that internship and that's what you're applying to today. Like I said, you are definitely uh, a really talented reporter. No question about that. And the camera just
That's
loves
very
you, no doubt. Oh, it's facts. Listen, if you were terrible, I probably wouldn't say terrible, but I would probably say, you know what? There might be other professions out there that you could possibly. You don't want to like hurt somebody's feelings, but at the same time, you want to keep it real too. And I'm sure if your bosses, obviously they know what type of work you do, what type of work that you can have. So it's just incredible to talk to you for sure.
You know what? I will one thing on that. I want to piggyback real quick,
Talk
because
to me.
there are who have surprised me, even some of my former classmates, some of the folks that maybe didn't always, maybe they didn't show up for class, or maybe they just didn't take journalism class super seriously. Some of them have just, it's been incredible to watch the progress and the change. And some of them have become some of the best journalists that are
Right.
actually history. So it just goes to show, it was a good reminder that anyone and everyone is capable of turning that around, right?
Yep.
Even if it didn't come naturally to you right off the start, that doesn't mean that through practice and repetition and drive and ambition that that can't become your reality. Because some of these girls and guys that I graduated with, I'm like, what? You didn't even show up to class, but now look at this person. They're killing it.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. I want to transition to mental health and work-life balance. And the reason why I want to ask this question is because it's becoming more prevalent now in our society that people are talking about mental health and burnout in this industry. Overworked, low pay. Sometimes bosses are not caring about the individual, but they care about the bottom line. And I know I had to learn this in my college days, where they said, "Hey, Chris, come to the bar, turn up with us." And like I told you, Marissa, I like to work hard, I like to play hard. That's my lifestyle, and I love to do it. But I also understand responsibilities and deadlines. If you're working in this industry, deadlines is key. You got to get stuff done at a certain time. And some people in the business world have a tough time understanding what a journalistic schedule is. Like you just said, you wake up at 2 in the morning. So, and I'm known about that overnight life and working in lottery. I worked overnight, 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. Business people don't understand that. They 8 to 4, 9 to 5. Once they clock out, boom, it's gone. But you got breaking news sometimes. You got other stories. You got to write, shoot, edit. Then you got to make sure it gets on TV on time. And if you don't get there on time, your boss will get you why. You know what I mean? So I want to ask you, with everything that's going on in your life, you have family, friends, job. How do you balance your work life and social life, but also still maintain good mental health? Because you need some Marissa time too.
I would say I wasn't good at that during the pandemic, and it did become pretty unhealthy, right? I think it's good to be transparent about these things. There
Yeah.
were times where I have good mental health at all, and it was really hard. It was really sad. It was rough behind the scenes. And I think that when I talk to people about it, I don't think I've met a single person who didn't go through it in some way during the pandemic, man. I think it hit us all at some point in some way for
Right.
one reason. And I think that when you're a highly empathetic individual in this business, it's hard not to absorb the pain of the people around you. It's hard not to take it home with you.
Right.
And that got really hard and really dark because, especially in lockdown, and also I'm by myself out here. I live in a studio apartment. I didn't even have my cat. Like, my boyfriend at the time was living in New York. My family wasn't around. I It's a long story, but I also wasn't in communication with my father. And that was it. My abuela has Alzheimer's. My abuelo passed away.
Wow.
And that was it. I had absolutely nobody here. And then we were on lockdown. So I was completely isolated. So the only thing that I had was work. I don't recommend that ever to anyone.
Right.
I think that with special circumstances, though, because we're in the middle of, the height of the pandemic, when there was so much uncertainty and you weren't even really allowed to like leave your apartment for anything other than grocery shopping, that was different, right? Things are different today in
Yes, it is.
every single. I've built an army of support finally after 2 years of this, because I was also really new. I just moved to Chicago, and man, I do not recommend moving to a new city in a new time zone from everyone you know in the middle of a pandemic or right before it. If you can, try to not do that. Sorry, my phone said low battery, but
You good.
things are different now. For a lot of reasons, things are opening back up, but also because things are opening back up, I'm doing things that are helping me with my mental health. And so much of that is, one, getting outside. That's huge for me. Walking. That's huge. It's so simple and it's so small, but getting back into taking public transit, like seeing people walking the streets, getting a little bit of sunlight, even if it's cold, it's worth it. That has been, I kid you not, that alone has had a huge impact on my mental health. And then
Right.
I finding support here. I've joined Second City Improv. That has been night and day. It gives me something
Hmm.
to gives me room to breathe and laugh and have fun and learn to see the joy even when everything is on fire around you. I
Right.
think finding someone outside of journalism is so important. You are not your job. I am a journalist. That is my profession. It's my calling. I love what I do, but I'm
Right.
a lot of outside of journalism. And I think that that's probably the biggest advice I have for anyone that's like still new or working their way into the business is keep the passion, keep the drive, but look out for yourself 10, 15, 20 years from now too. You got to think long term. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And when something like a pandemic happens, you have to be able to keep yourself rock steady. So if that
Hmm.
means being a ukulele troupe or joining improv, whatever it is, join a soccer team, you got to do something outside of this business or it'll drive you crazy.
I love that. I really do. I love that answer. You gave great answers since we started asking the questions. But I love that answer because of the fact that, yeah, the pandemic was tough. I'm an outgoing person, and especially for me, trying to do things, to be stuck in the house. You can only play PlayStation for so long. You can only watch Netflix for so long until you start
Yeah.
going a little bit crazy. And I love that recommendation. I am also out here by myself. I have no family here in Minnesota at all. As I told you earlier, my family's scattered out. So I'm trying to be able to find different things. This is a very small town too. It's not like Minneapolis. I'm a couple hours away from Minneapolis. So this is Marshall, Minnesota, where the population is 11,000. So it's a very small town, and I'm in a one bedroom here. So my thing is, just like you said, try to find things to do outside of my job, which is sports reporting. So I love to go to the gym, so I joined the Y.
Good.
Yeah, I had to do something, Marissa. I did because I was like, I'm about to go damn crazy if I don't find that's for sure. And I'm thinking about joining a co-rec softball team in the summertime.
Good.
So yeah, so I want to be able to do stuff like that as well. At this point in time, I want to do this or that.
Okay.
What that is I'm going to throw two things at you, and you choose one or the other. Okay?
Okay.
Here we go. Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Christmas.
Popeyes or KFC?
Neither.
Oh man, neither. Oh, you don't like chicken?
If I have to choose, I guess I would have to choose KFC.
Okay, okay. But do you like chicken though?
Not not fried chicken. I know
Now,
that's like a super lame answer. I'm so sorry. I
okay,
I don't want people angry at me, but no, I'm not a huge fried chicken fan.
okay. That's okay. That's all right. With the teeth and own. That's okay.
I like their coleslaw.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna move.
He's done with me. He's about to end
Oh,
this Zoom right now.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Drive-ins or movie theaters?
Oh, drive-in.
Hmm, okay, I like that. Okay, you redeemed yourself now. You redeemed yourself. So that's good. That's good.
Plus one pandemic for bringing that back, by the way. That's like,
Absolutely.
if we can look at one silver lining, it was the resurgence of old pastimes that suddenly became more convenient during a time where we needed to social distance. That's the biggest one. I loved going to the drive-in movie theaters. It was beautiful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No doubt. I'm with you on that. Okay. Uh, MJ or LeBron? Now you in Chicago
Michael Jordan,
now.
obviously.
Right? You can't go wrong with that. Okay. Peyton Manning or Tom Brady?
I don't know. They're the same. I don't watch sports, so I don't know. Tom Brady, because he just retired.
Got you. I got you. Okay. But do you at least play? Do you play? Like, are you trying to active like that? Do you like playing or no?
Do I like playing sports?
Yeah.
I liked playing soccer. I played soccer. I was a big soccer girl
Okay.
growing up.
Okay. I like
So,
that. Okay. Cool.
but
Cool.
I do plan on going to a Bulls game soon, which would be my first, which I'm really excited about.
Oh yeah, the United Center is rocking. Had a chance to go there recently when I was visiting family there. So yeah, no doubt, no doubt. This next one has to do with chicken wing flavors. Okay,
Oh
barbecue.
God.
Yeah, I know it. But listen, you can put this on whatever. Okay, barbecue
You
or
picked the
lemon pepper.
wrong person for this game. You picked the wrong person.
I'm like, man, she don't like chicken. She don't play sports.
No,
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go.
we
I got
no
some
more
music questions.
games.
I
What
got
am I
some
gonna
music.
ask her?
I got some music questions in here too, but I'm like, man, okay. All right, well, we'll leave that one off for sure. Uh, Carrie Underwood or Luke Bryan?
God, I'm the worst guest ever. I don't know either. I've heard of Carrie Underwood. I don't think I could name a single Luke Bryan song. So I'd have to go with Carrie Underwood because I know the song Before He Cheats.
Okay, okay. We got three more. Uh,
Okay.
Taz, Tasmania or Baltimore?
Wait, Tasmania?
Or the city that you visited versus
Oh,
Baltimore.
Tanzania or
Tanzania.
Baltimore?
Yeah, Tanzania or Baltimore.
I mean, no disrespect to Baltimore. I love Charm City, but I can go there anytime I want. Tanzania, I want to go back.
I like that. I like that.
I
Okay.
got friends
Okay.
there.
We got two more. All right. So
Okay.
say you a rock fan. You like rock and roll. So
Mm-hmm.
here's the two groups. Okay. We got Journey or Led Zeppelin.
Oh, Led Zeppelin. Easy.
Okay.
Hit,
All right. Well, that's the first question you answered definitively. So that's
hit that
pretty
button
good.
real fast.
That's
Yeah,
just
that's the
real
most
fast.
confident I've been lightning rounds.
Okay. And this last one is going to be The Doors or Aerosmith.
The Doors. The Doors. Now, if you said the Doors or Rolling Stones, that might have been a little bit harder because I do really love the Rolling Stones. I don't know what I would have said, but that's not what you asked. So
That's not what I asked. I asked Doors or Aerosmith, but the Rolling Stones are pretty good. I like Mick Jagger and them boys. I do. Can't believe they still touring, but I like them boys. I do. They got some age on them, but hey, get that money. I am not opposed to
get
that.
the money.
Get that money. I'm not opposed to it. Okay. What are some of the challenges that you face being in this industry? We kind of talked about the schedule. You waking up at 2 a.m. In the morning. Obviously, we talked about you moving. I moved here in Minnesota in the wintertime, and let me tell you, whew, that winter cold is something different out here than it was in the South. No question about it. Is it the fact that you are a woman in this industry? Sometimes it may be gender that challenges you face. But what kind of challenges that you face being in this industry?
Um, I think a lot of the challenges we face are the same challenges that everyone faces to some degree across other industries, but I'm trying to think if there's something like specific to journalism.
Right.
I think it's just like any other industry where, you're going to have a constant push and tug of war between editorial and management, where you have folks on the ground who are really looking to do certain types of stories, but then there's always going to be, of course, they have to. I think that there's just always going to be that sort of relationship that can sometimes make it hard to do things maybe the way that you want to do them or think that they should be done. But then I would say just even basic things like when you're just getting started, moving to your first city in a very unfamiliar place that you never imagined yourself living in. It's not a place that maybe was at the top of your list when you were dreaming of where you wanted to end up. But I would say the redeeming part of that is it's luckily every story that I've heard from my friends, and I can vouch for this, it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. It's tough for you're excited, and then maybe it's tough at the start for like a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think it's cool to live in those places in hindsight, because especially if you've lived in bigger cities your whole life,
Yep.
it's a completely different experience, and you get to see a different part of the country and get to know a get to know people living in a very different way, especially if you come from bigger cities. It's really important to understand the mindset of different communities. And I think it makes you a better reporter, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's absolutely, I apply that to every single challenge I've ever had in my life. You learn from it. And I think in that way, I still connect with a lot of people that I met in, my first market. And there's been a lot of people who still reach out to me from there. So, there's good in everything, right? Even if it starts off initially as a challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger for sure. You do learn coming from big cities. That's me. I've lived in Atlanta, lived in San Diego, but and I was born in Chicago. So those are three big cities. Moving to Marshall was a woo-wee difference. There's no question about that. But you do learn the community is a close knit group. Anytime you have a small city, everybody knows everybody, and there's stories to tell, and it does make you a better reporter for sure. I do believe that as well. I'd like to ask you this question about hard news. How hard is it to separate yourself from hard news? Like, when you go home and you have to do either a shooting or maybe a drive-by or maybe a burning building or maybe a car accident, where a light pole gets knocked off or something. How hard is it for you to separate yourself from hard news when you go home?
Hmm. It's a good question because I'm not good at this. I'll admit I'm probably not the best person to give advice on this because for me, it's really hard. And I think that even if I do separate myself from it, there's always a layer of guilt. And I still haven't decided whether that's right or wrong. I don't know whether or not I should feel guilty. I've spoken to other reporters about this, and I would say it's 50-50, right? We're all just trying to survive. And survive with humanity intact can be really difficult. I think that that's why when you speak to reporters who do more trauma based reporting, I mean, it can be really tough. I mean, look at war correspondents and foreign correspondents. Sometimes they have issues with how they cope. And there's plenty of literature and interviews done on that. So I'll let you see for yourself what sometimes happens to war correspondents when they come home. But I think that when you're doing trauma based reporting, I don't know, man, especially like I live here, this is my city too. And so it's hard to separate yourself from it because these aren't just stories. These are my neighbors. These are people who I share space with on the CTA. These are my CTA drivers who were getting
Right.
attacked. These are faces that I've seen before. And sometimes I'm even speaking to the mother of, a victim. And then it's like, should I try to not feel something, right? Like
Right.
it's hard to separate yourself from it. You can't just unhear it or unsee it. And it's hard to just go back to your life as if nothing is wrong, as if you didn't just witness something horrible. But you also need to strive to find balance. You have to find a way to survive. You have to be happy. And that's very honestly, if I'm honest, that's why I think Second City and improv is for me personally been so healing because I never delved into the world of comedy. I have always been a very serious person. My entire life, I've been a serious person. I was always high strung, uptight. That was always sort of what I was known for. Whenever there'd be like little gifts or Secret Santa, classmates would get me things that said relax on it. What does that tell you?
Wow.
So I was always like really uptight. And honestly, a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I thought I had to fix everything. And I thought, how can I be happy? There's a war happening. There's famine happening here, And I think that for once, I'm finally learning that there will always be suffering in this world, and two things can be
Yeah.
true at once. You can have space in your heart to want to fix it. You can have space in your heart to have empathy and compassion for all of the people who are suffering in this world, and there are many. And there's never a time in this world. There's never a time in the day where someone isn't suffering. But you yourself, you will get dragged down into depression if you let that weigh you down. And I think that there's a way to still have that compassion and that empathy and that caring side while also learning to cope. And sometimes that can be through, it might have to be dark humor and dark comedy, or even just looking to seek out the joy that's juxtaposed alongside it, right? And so I hope that answers your question. I'm still learning. I'm still learning the answer.
No, that's totally fine. That really is, and it does, because different reporters have had different answers. I've had a lot of reporters on this platform since I created this, and they'll say your answer say it's very hard, but then some of them will be like, well, you still have to keep the integrity of the job, and you still have to do this. And no, it's not hard for me to separate it because it's not my life, and I totally understand those answers as well. I get that, but for me personally, is why I chose sports because I know me personally. I love to cover games. I love doing feature stories and human interest stories, but it'd be very tough for me to walk up to a mother, a parent, and start pestering them with questions about, their son or daughter being shot or a house burning down or something bad just happening in their lives. Because I wouldn't want somebody to stick a microphone in my face. That's just my main mentality of that. So I totally understand, and there's many people that feel the same way as you. But it's interesting to hear some people's answers as well. I got three more questions.
I want to say
Go ahead.
one thing real quick before we jump to the next question. I agree with you, and there are ways of compassionately doing that, and that's something that I think anyone listening who's looking to jump into journalism and local reporting where they might have to do that, start studying up now, because don't stick a microphone in the face of someone who just is in the middle of grieving. There's ways of doing it compassionately while also still doing your job. That's huge, and that's paramount. And I've seen people do it the wrong way, and nothing makes me more angry. So
No, I get it, and I do like this version of Marissa, the smiling one, and it looks good on you. You don't have to be so serious all the time, but I love the fact that you're focused as well on your job as well. Yeah, you got to smile, so no doubt. This next question is a top four. Now you're in Chicago. I'm from there, that's for sure. I was born at Cook County Hospital. Um,
nice.
so I want to know what is the top four things that I should do in your mind when I touch down in Chicago again?
Well, when are you planning on touching down? When are you planning on being here?
Definitely when the snow is gone. So
Okay,
spring, summertime for sure.
great. Well, you got to see. This is like the most basic list, but these are some of the things that bring me the most joy when the weather is warm.
Oh,
Top of my personal list is going to any one of Chicago's lakefront beaches because, man, I'm almost 3 years into being here. I'm hitting 2.5 years 1 week from now. And I still get giddy with joy because there's no other city that has a beach like ours. And I mean, any of them where you can see the skyline. That's
okay.
just incredible. So I still get so excited about that. So definitely having some sort of picnic or beach day where you can see the city skyline because we do have the most beautiful skyline.
Okay.
Architecture tour, picnic by the river, and there's a few places I love to go to. The park in Chinatown is incredible. I'm
Mm.
forgetting the name of it,
Is it
but
Grant Park?
there's
You talking about Grant Park?
no. It's actually in Chinatown.
Okay.
I'm gonna look it up while we're talking, but they have some amazing picnic scenes there. Um, and so I went kayaking along there. It's Ping Tom Memorial Park. I wanted to make sure I said that right. Ping Tom Memorial Park.
Mm.
I've had many a picnics there. I've also done picnics along the river walk. If you go a little further down west along the
Mm-hmm.
river walk,
Mm-hmm.
and then, I mean, this sounds so cliche, but it brings you so much joy. That first, especially the first baseball game of the season, I gotta say, I love going to both Sox games and Cubs games. And I have done that. That's like the only sports, it's the only sports I've done or messed with here in Chicago so far because they're so accessible. Um, but the Chicago dogs at guaranteed rate are so good. So that made me happy. Having a Chicago, like an authentic Chicago dog at
Oh
guaranteed
yeah.
rate field.
Mm.
it just, I was like, okay, I'm a real Chicagoan now. I feel like I started to feel like a real Chicagoan after I started going to some Chicago baseball games.
Okay, I like that. I like the picnic idea. I like the beach idea. I definitely like the architectural tours. I'm a touristy kind of guy, so
Mhm.
I like going on tours and seeing different
Beautiful.
things. I do like hiking as well. But you won me over with the Chicago. I have been to a Wrigley's game. I have been to a Wrigley Cubs game. They're my second favorite
Okay.
team. They're my second favorite team because my favorite team is the Padres. That's what I grew up on. I actually, even
Okay.
though I was born in Chicago, I was raised in San Diego. So um,
Okay.
I do have those two loves as an affinity. Have not been to a White Sox game, but that will change because I definitely will go to a White Sox game for sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure you tried some deep dish pizza down there, right?
Oh, absolutely. Trying to
Mm-hmm.
think of, honestly, I think Pequod's. Pequod's is the one with the, it's like the burnt cheese crust,
Yep.
right? Oh,
Yes.
so good.
Yes.
Such a cheese lover, and I like shouldn't have it, but because I'm mildly lactose intolerant, because everybody
Oh,
is basically. I know it's like, it's not a fad though. I actually am a little bit, but it doesn't matter. It's so good. You
it
got
is
that. If
good.
you're gonna have cheese, do it there. I've been meaning to try the one. It's just like a, I forget the name of it, but it's the one where it's just like a bowl full of cheese basically, and they turn it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to send you the link to it. I forget
Please
the
do.
name of it, but yeah,
Please
love
do.
deep
So
dish.
whenever I do touch down in Chicago, I will definitely check those things out. But I would definitely have to hit you up as well. That's for sure.
Yeah,
No doubt. But yeah, those four things sound amazing. So yes, I appreciate that. I want
little
to
things.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying it's the little things. It's the simple
Oh,
things sometimes.
totally, totally a simple thing. I love that. Uno's is one of my favorite places too for deep dish pizza as well. So,
Nice.
oh, yeah, no doubt. I want you to say, what do you do on a day to day like basis? Like, what is your if you're waking up going to work, like you say, you wake up at 2. What is your day to day kind of schedule so people can get a sense of actual news journalists of what they go through?
Yeah, it really varies depending on the shift, right? My schedule is going to look vastly different. What I mean by my schedule, my day to day is going to look vastly different than the day to day of a dayside reporter. And that's going to look vastly different than the day to day of a nightside reporter, just so you know. It's really just a matter of when you're rushing. When are you sprinting, right? And so for us, the morning show folks, my fellow colleague Mugo Digwe, who is also my best friend, she and I are both in the same boat where you wake up at 2 a.m. I contemplate my life for about 10 minutes, drinking coffee and staring at my ceiling in silence. And I think that's pretty on par with everyone on this shift. You know, the first 10 or so minutes of hitting snooze are the hardest, but then you get ready, and then at 2:45, anywhere between 2:45 and 3 a.m., I'm watching my email to find out what I'm going to get assigned to, what is the day going to bring. And as soon as we get that email, as soon as I know what I'm working on, then it's a sprint to get all the elements you can and to hopefully have a script anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. So I have between 3 a.m. essentially to 4 a.m. But it's not like you're just sitting there at your computer, you know. I'm
Mhm.
meeting up with my photographer. We're discussing logistics because we got to go live at 5 o'clock. So you
Right.
need to be there at 4:45. But you need to know where you're going earlier than that. And
Yeah.
sometimes today we got lucky that it was only a 10-minute drive to Mercy Hospital, which is now Insight Hospital. But sometimes it's like an hour's drive. So you're like figuring out logistics while you're also trying to catch up on what your story is. Sometimes you're looking at previous reporting from your own station, which might be the night before. And that definitely makes things a little easier. Obviously, like
Yeah.
it helps us out. But sometimes we're completely enterprise reporting. That's happened before, like with the mask mandate battle between Pritzker and the downstate judge, where like, will they have school masks? Won't they? My God, there were a couple times where it's like 3 a.m. and I'm just sifting through legal documents at 3
Right.
a.m. trying to
Right.
interpret them on two brain cells. So it's anyone's guess what the day will actually bring, but that's kind of the general gist of the hustle. And then after 11 a.m., depending on where we are, I'm free.
Clock out time. I like that. No,
Yeah.
it's really cool to understand that because there's so many different roles in this journalistic kind of field. You know, from producers, directors, reporters,
Mhm.
anchors, photographers. What you just said, and but
Yep.
also not just with stations. You also have publications. You also have teams. So it's pretty cool to learn about the different genres of entertainment, sports, news, of what you go through. Because, like you said, schedules are sometimes daytime, mid shift, or that nighttime kind of thing that you do to the early morning. So, yeah, I commend you for waking up at 2:30 in the morning. 'Cause I know I probably have to hit that damn snooze button about 5, 6 times for me, for sure. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to
I
get out
mean,
my
who says we don't, right?
bed.
I'm not even gonna lie to you, dude. It's Monday. I slept through all of my alarms today except for one. And thank God I set 4 alarms because it was that last one that got me. And I was like, oh, I have to be awake in 10 minutes. So I have
I
to be
know
at
it.
work in 10 minutes. So
I know it.
it's like that sometimes. We're human. So yeah, my
Right.
biggest recommendation is if you're starting on a morning shift or working overnight, set multiple alarms and have one of them all the way across the room. So you have to get up to turn it off.
Oh wow, that is pretty good advice. Now what? Now what is your normal 2 days off? 'Cause mine are Sunday and Monday, and then I work Tuesday through Saturday.
For the last 2 years, it was some variation of Monday, Tuesday. It was also Sunday, Monday when I first started, but that has changed. And I finally have Saturday, Sundays off. I've had those off for just over a month now. And man, I haven't had a single one free. And it's been great. I've been making up for lost time.
I love it. I love it. I can see the smile on your face. You love it too. So that's awesome. That's what's up. Okay.
Yeah.
This last question is about advice. What advice would you give someone, or someone has gave you about being in this industry that you hold on dearly?
There's a lot of advice that's been given to me, and it's all kind of floating around in my head.
Mm,
But like I take them all to heart. I'm trying to think if I had to leave everyone with just one. I mean, honestly, I feel like if I had to pick just one, I think don't lose sight of the importance and the power of what we do. And I think sometimes where people get into trouble is they do. Because yes, it's a job, but it's something that we have to safeguard and take really seriously. And that doesn't mean taking ourselves seriously. That doesn't mean taking myself seriously, acting as if I'm so important, because I'm not. I'm a vessel, and I love what I do and I respect myself. But what I'm trying to say is that what we do is serious.
right.
And even if you're doing something lighthearted, that should still be given the same care and attention, right? Like we had Bunchki Day the other week.
Mm,
And you
okay.
know what this is?
Sure. Yeah. Look, I'm intrigued.
Oh, you don't know what this is? Okay. Oh, well, I
No.
can tell you. Um, Punchki Day is I would say it's a holiday commemorating this Polish pastry, which
Okay.
is called and it's kind of a big deal here in Chicago in particular because we have such a strong Polish community here. I'd never heard of it until I moved here, and I'd actually never had one until last week.
Mhm.
And I think that you could have looked at that one story as, I think that there's two ways of looking at it. You can look at it like, oh, yeah, I'm just doing a story on Punchki Day. Or you can remember that this is a community that's impacted by the Russian invasion right now. So there's a lot of people who are on edge, who are, afraid, maybe
Yes.
nervous for
Yes.
members of these. It's affecting all of Eastern Europe at this moment in time. And so you have the Polish community, probably there's a lot of people who have a lot of different thoughts. They might have family members that are over there. And so I think the day took on a more nuanced meaning for me because it's like, okay, this isn't just Błączki Day. This is a day where people can relax and maybe celebrate something good. And that might be the good thing that's going to keep them going for the next few weeks. That might be the one nugget of something positive, just pure joy in their day. And there is something noble about sharing that with people at home and allowing them to feel that. So when I say never forget the importance of what you do, um, it applies to all kinds of stories, not just the really complex investigations and not just the breaking news where people's lives are at stake and that the natural disasters, but even the lighter features because it matters. It all matters.
I like that. I like that. I really do. That is some terrific advice. Um, I am following you on Instagram. Obviously, that's how we connected. I am following you on LinkedIn. If you have a Twitter, I will follow you there as well. Hopefully, you'll follow me back. But I say those three because those are the main three I use to get content out, to connect with people, and let people know what I'm doing.
Nice.
I felt like we have learned quite a bit about you today. Obviously, you got some Be More roots. Being a Terps alum, fried chicken is not your friend. Neither is sports in general. Which I would say this: if we gonna be tight, if we gonna be some friends, I'm gonna need you at least to attend some sports games, okay? Because that's if you,
I
I'm just saying.
I know Cubs and Sox. I got into that, and
Okay.
I'm going to go to the Bulls game on, I think it's April 2nd against the Heat. So there are steps being made. In my defense,
Mm-hmm.
the last 2 years were a little rough. I didn't get the same Chicago experience that I might have had if it weren't for the pandemic.
And I totally am with that. Listen, because if you're gonna befriend anybody that's a sports reporter, like myself, we are sports junkies. So,
Yeah.
we're not going to overload you. No, not going to overload you. But, baseball, basketball, football, those are the three mains. If you know something about the three mains, you're going to be okay. Now, you go to a game and you ask him 55 questions about a game, it's going to be like, okay, all right, so at least he's interested. That's cool. I'm with that. But if you just go to a game and you are looking disinterested, just like, oh,
Mm-mm. No way. You can't go to a game and not be interested, though. I have a hard time watching on the TV, but I feel like when you're there in person, no matter what game it is, like
man.
I went to a hockey game once, I went to the Caps game in DC once.
Okay.
I go to, it's a long, long, long story that I won't get into on the podcast here. But I did go to a Ravens game, a couple Ravens games, and the Washington football team games in person. That was for work.
All right.
And I
Okay.
had always been watching it on TV, but man, it's so different in person.
Without
So
question.
no sitting there looking disinterested at a game. I feel like that's impossible. It's impossible.
Listen,
There's too much energy.
you would think so, Marissa. You would. But
Oh,
there has been a couple that have done that task very well. And I'm glad to hear that you went to some games. And listen, I love to hear about that story offline. I would definitely love to hear about that story. But the main
God.
thing is the main thing is I do appreciate you coming on. And you got a new friend now in myself and a new supporter in what you do. I'm looking uh forward to any stories that you come up with because I would definitely continue to pay attention to you. I always end my podcast like this. Is there anything else you would like to add before we conclude?
No, I just want to say, one, thanks for having me on. I hope that there was something, hopefully, in that conversation that I said that can help someone or at least entertain them in some way. But thanks for what you're doing. You're doing a service to people out there. And I know podcasting is not easy. So good for you for taking the initiative. I thought about it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who still hasn't done it? So I know that it takes a lot of drive. So that speaks to your ambition and your drive.
Oh, I appreciate that, Marissa. I do. And listen, once I post the video up on the site, people hopefully they'll pay attention, look at it, because that's what we want. The whole reason why we started the platform was to let people know about people's stories of how they came into journalism, who they are beyond their occupation, because you're not just a journalist, you're more than that. So I love talking to people like yourself, and you've made this a very enjoyable experience. I will definitely be in Chicago this summer because one of my favorite artists is going to be coming there for sure. And it's real close to where I'm at. So I'll be going to the concert for sure. So when I do touch down, I'll let you know for sure.
Awesome. Can't
Now, you take care. Enjoy the rest of your Monday afternoon, and we'll be in touch.
You too, Chris. I can't wait to hear it and see it. Be
Absolutely.
safe.
You take care. Bye.